Welcome back to another episode of the Noble Fury Podcast. And man, do we have a hot topic today.
Yes, we do.
We are going to talk about this crazy phenomenon that's going on with these UFOs, or as they're called, unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Wow.
What happened to UFOs?
Are you talking about drones?
Oh, we are talking about drones.
Are they black drones?
They are black drones, and apparently they're the government's. Or are they?
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your take?
I think that they are probably the U.S. government's. I think if we got a picture of one, it would say USAF on it, and you'd see a serial number, and it would look like, by the way, these are very big drones. They're 6 feet in diameter. These are not the drones.
Some size of an SUV with propellers or something.
That's a big drone,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, who's got that kind of technology? I mean, there's some things we can whittle down right away. It feels like they're U.S. government drones.
Yeah.
Why does it feel like that? And why are we not thinking it's Iran or China or Russia? Ukraine could make a lot of drones. That could be the source. That would be ironic.
Yeah.
If we would have paid for them to come and send the drones on us. What do you think? What do you think the origins are?
So I think I'd like to back up a little bit and put this all in perspective. And then we'll kind of frame out my argument that this is, in fact, probably the United States government, and it's probably an attempt to push a legislation to get funding for a new branch of government, a new program in government. But they're going to need some funding, and they're trying to instill fear in the public so that they can have the ground support they need from the representatives that approve all appropriations.
My instincts, before you do the background, which is great, my instincts are to say, sort of rhetorically, how could they get this so wrong? If this is really the U.S. government and this is their attempt, whatever their goal is, it hasn't worked. It doesn't matter what their takeaway was to be.
Yeah,
it's a failure because it's caused this huge upheaval. They've got people on the left and people on the right and everybody in between questioning what's going on. Why is this happening? Why don't you tell us? Why don't you come clean? Trump says, look, either come clean, U.S. government, tell us what they are, identify them, or shoot them down. And if you can't identify them, why can't you identify them?
Yeah.
That means our intelligence community is failing in every category.
So one of the things that I was interested in this story is the spike in UFO sightings we've had generally since COVID. And so I did a little research and I discovered that from 2004 to 2020, there were 144 UFO reported sightings that were confirmed to be something that was unusual. Now, in 2022 alone, there were 366 reports, 177 of which were confirmed to be unexplainable. So true UFO issues. So the lead up then is, well, we're seeing a spike in UFO sightings, and all of a sudden then in January of 2023, there is this strange Chinese origin spy balloon that crosses the Pacific, goes up into Alaska, into Canada, and across the United States. Remember that?
Oh, of course. It was crazy. It was unexplainable then. You were just like, what? It's a slow moving thing, right? It's like, what's going, there's no mystery here. There's this big giant balloon that's obviously, surveilling every place it goes, and it's over these military installations. Where's the big mystery in that?
Yeah.
Hey, it's the Chinese government spying on us. Reaction?
So on January 27th of 2023, the general in charge of NATO is, sort of getting alarmed. He's seeing this. They've been following this balloon now for 10 days, and they're seeing that it's about to go into Alaska airspace. So he gets on the phone with Mike Milley, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's the White House liaison to all military. And so he says, look, we've got a problem. We've got this UFO, it's about to breach into Alaska. So Milley and...
Wait, at which point most people you would think we would just shoot it down. Here comes into our airspace. It's obviously not right. It's sanctioned. It's not cleared. It's not normal. Here comes into U.S. airspace. What's the natural reaction?
So Milley...
By the way, sorry, why it's out over Alaska, where it can't hopefully hurt
And,
it's in the wilderness, perhaps.
The NATO head, I think his name is Van Horik, and they decide that they're going to scramble some jets to go take a look at this thing. They send F-22 Raptors out, and they get close to it. They put sensors on it from the jets, the fighter jets, and they discover that there's a lot of military, very sophisticated military spy equipment
Surveillance.
on this.
Cameras.
Yep. So it's a spy balloon. So it takes until February 1st. Now, this is the 27th of January. It takes until February 1st for the Secretary of Defense to be informed of what's going on. He is in Asia and apparently doesn't want to be bothered by this. And
now, wait, a question. Did the public become aware of this thing when it was in Alaska? Didn't it?
I don't think at that time the public became aware of it. No. It's something that the media then began to, after that, once it was in Alaska and started moving through Canada, then there were reports that were trickling into the media and people became more aware of it. But the Biden administration claims that it did not intentionally keep this from the public, but they did not make a big deal of it, and it was something that kind of was not affirmed by the White House that was taking place. So,
which nobody believed, by the way.
Lloyd Austin, who is the Secretary of Defense, finally gets contact with Milley on February 1st, and then they get a hold of Biden, and they talk through the options. And Van Horik at NATO or NORAD is involved, and they decide that the best thing to do is to wait until it gets over the ocean or into the ocean again, because if they shot it down, it's so large, it's like 200 feet tall, and so and with a lot of equipment, and that equipment could
it also could be booby trapped. I mean, it could be set up.
It could have been booby trapped.
So hey, look, we're surveilling you, and we've got all these cameras, and you can see all these cameras. Under surveillance, what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to shoot it down, and it's full of mustard gas or something.
From 65,000 feet in the air, though, 2,000 pounds of equipment falling onto a house or buildings or cars or schools or whatever could cause a lot of damage.
I'm talking about a massive,
You're talking about a terrorism episode of terrorism.
Sure.
But so they decide they're going to shoot it down. They employ the help of NASA to use very sophisticated weather forecasting to let it flow to a spot or float to a spot where it was about to leave U.S. airspace, and they shoot it down just outside of South Carolina, coastal South Carolina, falls into the ocean. Navy's waiting. They pick up the debris, and then now the FBI and the CIA have been interrogating that debris.
Now, we both know it's not like they got the videotapes from the security cameras at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
This was sending it in real time. They all the stuff they surveilled, they had. It's not as if they needed to get the weather balloon back to trap or to recapture all the information that they had stolen. They were getting it, right? It was being fed by a satellite, or obviously was being, I'm sure it was perhaps recording, but we don't think there was a little red dot, on their little monitor on the weather balloon recording the stuff. They were getting it every place that weather balloon. They were getting a feed in real time.
Yeah. No, in fact, they were.
So they didn't do anything by stopping it because they'd already done all the damage.
Well, no, but I don't think the damage was really done because they had U.S. military aircraft jamming whatever signals that it was transmitting. It was transmitting when they first found it. It was transmitting data. But at that point on, they had a U.S. jamming asset flying nearby, jamming any kind of signal that it could have possibly sent.
I'm not trying to be funny or to be flippant, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had redundancies. Like they had like the A signal, and then they have a B signal, and a C signal, and a D signal, and we've jammed the A signal.
Yeah.
And
we don't know.
Right.
But apparently the military claims that.
Doesn't that seem too easy? It's like, hey, but we're.
So what's important to recognize for the context of this conversation is a pattern starts to be formed, right? So Van Horik, he's the NORAD chief, the general in charge of NORAD. General Van Horik, who is the commander at
North
NORAD.
American Aerospace Defense Command.
Yes, that's right. You got it. So he's in charge of all avionics, anything that's flying over the United States and honestly throughout the world. That facility is tracking. So he though issues a statement shortly after all of this takes place, and it's an interview from NBC News from 2023, December 22nd. So this is about a year ago today, but it was about 10 months after all this stuff, works its way out in 2023 early. So he says it exposed significant gaps, long-range gaps, for us to be able to see potential threats to the homeland.
The weather balloon did.
This whole episode, that the fact that this weather balloon got into U.S. airspace that he couldn't do anything about, but I think they could have, right to your point very early, is they could have shot it down. But his point, he's saying it exposed significant gaps, long-range gaps, for us to be able to see potential threats to the homeland. Okay? Very important, because we know what's going on in New Jersey and New York with all of the drones flying around, and they're going over all kinds of locations. There's a river that feeds a lake that's part of an aquifer in New Jersey. It's very close to New York, and it provides a lot of drinking water for the area. It goes over a beach area. It goes over the Picatinny Armory in New Jersey, which has a facility for the manufacturing of military arms and the research and development of military arms.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, just think about what you just listed off. Think of the significance. Think of the billions of dollars invested. Think of the sensitivity. This is the stuff that you wouldn't imagine. Oh my gosh, if our adversaries had access to this information, had access to this facility, had just visuals, had whatever they had surveil, they had it, and whoever is flying over these drones, whoever flying over the space with these drones, that's exactly what they're gaining, is compromising information to the nth degree.
So, but the drones themselves are deemed by the governor of New Jersey, I think his name is Murphy. He deems it to be a non-threat that the public should not be. Did you see the thing right there
that Murphy didn't show up? That there was 188 mayors across the state. I don't know if I have the number right.
No, I think that's right. I think most of the mayors from the larger metropolitan areas in New Jersey
all came together to have a conference and discuss this quickly, and Murphy didn't show up.
Yeah,
and so they were beyond irate. I mean, some of these people drove a long way. And he just was a no-show. And the one person you needed, he was obviously right. He was the critical element to that thing. What do you know? Because he's dealing with the feds.
Yeah, here's my note. Drones do not pose a threat, is what Murphy said. And by the way, those drones went over Trump's golf course at Bedminster in New Jersey, and a Coast Guard boat, a Coast Guard ship. They were hovering over a Coast Guard ship as well, off the coast of New Jersey. So these drones have been all over, but the reports are that they display certain properties that are unusual. They move very rapidly in ways that planes cannot. Right? Mm-hmm. They seem to be able to do things that helicopters can do, but maybe much faster or much more nimbly.
Did you see there was a local police officer in New Jersey that took their drone from their local police department and put it up in the sky near one of these other drones and tried to track it, and these unidentified drones, it flew 60 miles an hour, and the police drone only flew 40 miles an hour. So basically, commercial drones, in essence,
capped out at 45 miles an hour, and this thing was exceeding that, no problem.
Exactly, couldn't keep up with it and took off, which is
it's like when you try to outrace the police cruiser on the interstate. That doesn't work out so well for most people.
No, not usually. So the question is really, and I know you're still getting into this, what the theories are, what is the source of these drones? It's either the government, it's either foreign government, our U.S. government, foreign government, or little green men. So they're from another planet.
If it is in fact,
you're not going to react to little green men.
Well, I'll leave it at that. You can dwell into that space.
We should eliminate the little green men.
If it is a foreign adversary, our government officials were very nonchalant about this, right?
Listen, the public is up in arms, and people are upset and worried, and the government's like, "There's nothing to see here, folks. We've determined that the drones are not a threat." but we don't know where they're from. Well, then how did you determine they're not a threat?
Exactly the
You
point.
can't have it both ways.
So the joint Department of Homeland Security and FBI statement on the reports of the drones in New Jersey, and this is from the FBI national press page, they say, we have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat or have a foreign nexus.
Now, the wording in that is so...
It's important to scrutinize the wording, but if they are going to make a statement like that, then they need to have data to support that statement, right? So
I think they left
either they know something...
That wording, I'm sorry, Jeff, the wording that you just read, which is great, they left themselves huge spaces between all the subtle nuances of that language.
So I'm going to follow that up with what the White House National Security spokesman, John Kirby, we've seen this guy on TV before.
Somebody called him a 1960s game show host.
Well, you know what? That's very apt. Really funny.
I wouldn't want to insult Wink Martindale. Sorry. That's another episode. I like Wink Martindale.
So John Kirby, says that most the reports of the drones are likely people mistaking legally operated helicopters, right? But then you've got citizens who are saying, look, we're seeing odd things. Law enforcement, Army personnel at that Picatinny arsenal.
Wait a second.
They're saying we're seeing weird things, movement, strange behavior, and characteristics that helicopters can't have characteristics like this.
This doesn't pass the smell test. I'm sorry to interrupt. This does not pass the smell test. Why? Because theoretically, helicopters and airplanes are flying all the time. They were flying 6 months ago. They were flying a year ago. They're flying tomorrow. They're flying last week. Now, all of a sudden, everyone's seeing these and they're saying, no, those are the same. Why? It doesn't make any sense. All of a sudden, there is a profile, so to speak, a visual imagery that is related to these drones that people haven't seen before. So when you attribute it to being a normal everyday helicopter or airplane, it doesn't make any sense because the normal everyday helicopters and airplanes have been flying around New Jersey for,
and people are used to seeing those.
Yes,
and they kind of at night. This is an unusual circumstance.
Stunning, and it's how.
So, but Kirby in his statement, he did acknowledge that the federal government had a quote. Now, I want you to remember this quote that I read just a few minutes ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. He says, quote, the federal government had a gap in authority to deal with these serious, mysterious drones and other UFO sightings. There's a gap in authority to deal with mysterious drones and other UFO.
How are we going to fix that, Jeff? What would we do? What would the government do if it had a gap in authority? Well, I don't know how they would address that.
I think that the government would want to go to, say, Congress and say, hey, Congress.
Do they need an appropriation? Do they need...
we need to have an appropriation to fill this gap, to correct this problem that we have. So it looks like this may be a concerted effort, lobbyists going to their bureaucratic contacts in the federal administrative state and or Congress. A lot of the people that are on the talking points about all this, they're representatives. Look around and then look at the news reports you're seeing. There are a lot of representatives, federal House members.
I like your theory. I don't know if it's yours originally. It's a really interesting.
Well, it's mine originally. Maybe other people have had it, but this is my theory.
It's a fascinating theory. The problem I have with it, and I don't know if this is. Listen, let's say the government thought that the oceans weren't safe. The maritime laws weren't significant enough. This would be the equivalent of sending 1,000 ships out into the ocean and having them zigzagging around in the ocean and going, hey, everybody, look, we need more legislation. We need to pass a bill to legislate the maritime waterways so that they're safer. Now, that's a big lift to send 1,000 ships out. This is what.
But yes, I do. I understand that. Except,
doesn't it seem excessive?
These things happen,
right? 1,000
right?
bills pending that they
post 9/11, right? All of a sudden, we had the support to create a new arm of government, the Department of Homeland Security, right? Did that exist before?
This is a great example. You have a fantastic example of your position.
And not only that, but we have
TSA. You're talking about TSA, obviously, right?
We have TSA, but we also then have this, this wide sweeping, surveillance legislation that gets renewed every few years that gets this FISA court that's tampering in with every little bit of data that we have. The FBI and the CIA and other administrative agencies are using these FISA warrants to get access to this stuff. And some of it is not even legitimate. And so there's a lot more interrogation of U.S. citizens post 9/11 than ever existed before that. And by the way, it's unconstitutional.
The government's justifying it based on the fact.
They're trying to justify unconstitutional.
And everyone says, well, we don't want another terrorist attack. You better take these liberties and run with them. Stomp on our liberties while you're in the interest of.
I do. And this to me reads like an attempt to once again develop some kind of governmental body that's going to monitor all drone traffic, all activity that might be legitimate and might be a very valid for a U.S. citizen to want to do. But the government is going to get into this space, and I think they're going to try to drum up support for it in Congress, hence why you see all these representatives now on the talking circuit about these drones. This is just part of a process that it's going to take 6 months, 9 months, a year to play out. But this is what I suspect is underway.
What do we know how much money is at stake? Do we know what they're talking about? Do we have any particulars on this legislation?
We don't. This is it's nascent form, right? This is inchoate. It's partially formed.
This is part of the reason
point.
I'm not so positive in your theory. I love your theory, and I think it's got more merit than it doesn't. So it's 51% meritful. Yeah, is that a word? Anyway, here's what I'm saying quickly. I'm John Q. Senator, and I want to pass this bill. So am I saying to myself, I'm so paranoid that this bill is not going to pass that I'm going to take it I'm going to take it upon myself to put this incredibly difficult, complicated, and quite scary series of circumstances into action just in the interest of me passing my bill. Bills don't make it to the floor every day, every hour, every day, theoretically. So to me, I don't know why this one's so. I guess if it was, $1 trillion, or if it was.
But if people are frightened enough, and you have the people of New Jersey and New York saying, they're writing their congressmen right now and their senators, and they're saying, hey, guess what? We don't like this. This is scary. We think that this is, the Chinese, the Russians, the whoever.
Wait, help me understand. What's scary? You're saying
the drone activity.
Oh, I see. You're saying it would work. You're saying Jesus.
I'm saying that's precisely the mechanism by which it would work, is to instill fear in the population about a foreign adversary invading the nation, and the government has to respond to it. And the way they do it is by having new surveillance systems. But again, my point is there's a great deal of surveillance that's already going on, and this may just ratchet up the level of surveillance that's going to take place.
Let me tell you why your theory is really strong. How crazy is it that there's this bill about, drone-related security issues, and with this appropriation, and by sheer coincidence, right when that happens, the Chinese launch a bunch of. What are the chances of that?
Yeah.
And you think about the timing. If this was coincidental, it's wildly convenient. Funny. I was just going to propose a bill about drone security, and all of a sudden we've got all these drones flying around that everyone's afraid of, that no one knows where they came from. So, it's so convenient. Of course, you're preying on, but you get my point. It's the same thing with the FISA warrants. They're preying on the fear that there's a terrorist who's going to drop a bomb at our high school football game or worse. And so people were like, well, what would you rather have? Another terrorist attack or a few of your rights stopped on? Most people, it's a terrible choice, but a lot of people would obviously, right? So make that compromise. But it's way too convenient, to your point, to your theory. It's a great theory, because if somebody was trying to get this thing passed, what are the chances? And look where we are, and look at the result.
And by the way, most people are not going to be as informed as they need to be to sort of get to the core problems here, the core issues. And so they're just going to be they're going to read the media reports, and they're going to say, hey, this seems like a little scary. Like Iran is retaliating for our support of Israel, and so they're going to start putting drones over here or whomever, and then. Well, I don't want to be killed by drones. That's scary. That's a robot attacking me.
Well, sorry, I was just going to say a couple of little sort of addendums to some of these points we're making. One, I thought it was really interesting that the governor in the state of New Jersey was told the mayors that if a drone comes down, respond to that anywhere locally within the state of New Jersey. From the governor, who was speaking to the feds, said respond with a hazmat suit a hazard. So the question is wait, why is he saying that? Is that again instilling more public fear mongering about what's behind what's involved with these drones, or is that just good advice? Right. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is apparently Politico and a couple other quotable, notable media sources have documented that there was this theory that there was a mothership from Iran that was off the coast, and they were the ones that were releasing these drones.
If that's the case, NORAD would have seen the mothership.
I mean, please,
from the moon. NORAD would know that there was a ship of some sort.
First of all, how does a ship from Iran get that close to release the drones?
Right,
I mean, come on, the surveillance. I mean, it doesn't. But they're claiming that there was an Iranian ship off the coast that was responsible for docking and then releasing these drones. Once again, did you not know that, U.S. government, or did you know it and not tell us? No. Either one, as De Niro says in Casino, you're out.
Yeah,
you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's crazy to think either one of those alternatives is.
Did you just quote De Niro?
Yeah. And Casino, he says, either the guy's stealing from her, or he's lying. Either way, he's out.
Yeah,
it's a great line.
I like the Joe Pesci quotes more.
Wait, would you? All right, back to the drones. Unless Joe Pesci's piloting a drone, which would be a great story. Anyway, the point of it all is it doesn't make any sense if for an Iranian ship to be off the coast releasing these things. It doesn't really make any sense that this would be a foreign government, because if it was a foreign government, how come we don't know about it? And if it is a foreign government, how are we so incompetent?
And if it's a foreign government, why didn't the foreign government do the bad act that they would have wanted to do by putting the drones there to begin with? Right? If their goal was just surveillance, they weren't very good at it because everybody saw it, right? Old ladies saw it, little kids saw it, everybody saw these drones. So they couldn't have been very sophisticated operators if they didn't want to have people recognize that they were being they were surveilling a armory.
Let's pile on one more moronic element of this. If it's the U.S. government, hey, I'm the U.S. government. I've got a bunch of drones to test. I got an idea. I'll take them out in the desert and test them where no one knows and no one can see, and we can work.
Which is exactly where it's called the proving sands of Nevada, and that's where they do most of these tests because nobody's around.
Well, it's an area that's not quarantined, but it's off limits.
Well, it is quarantined,
but you can't go on it. You can't drive on it.
Yeah.
It's okay. No, let's fly into this highly populated metropolis area.
Yeah,
that's full of millions of people who are all going to look up in the sky and see. What?
Right.
The dumbest. I mean, that can't be.
Yep.
They cannot be that.
Well, we're going to have to stop there. I wish we could talk more about this, but this is all we've got. Stay tuned. We've got more content coming. And once again, thank you very much for following us.
Appreciate you guys.
Subscribe and like. Thanks,
Jeff. See you next time, buddy.
Bye-bye.